Hey guys, tonight we are going to step onto the damp, creaking deck of a 19th century whaling ship. Feel the salt spray on your face, the coarse rope in your hands, and the vast, unforgiving ocean stretching out in every direction. It's a physical presence, a thick, greasy blanket you have to push through with every step. The world around you is a chaotic blur of noise and motion. Shouts of sailors, the rumble of heavy carts, the sharp crack of a foreman's whip, the distant, mournful clang of a ship's bell. It all merges into a single, oppressive roar. You see faces in the crowd, hard faces, desperate faces, faces already worn down by the sea or the factory. A few are flushed with drink and fleeting joy, but most wear the same mask of grim endurance that you feel settling onto your own features. You pull the thin collar of your coat tighter, a useless gesture against the damp chill that seems to seep up from the very ground. This is the world you were promised was full of opportunity. Turns out, the opportunity is for everyone but you. You're out of work, out of luck, and your last few coins feel frighteningly light in your pocket. You've been in this port town, maybe it's New Bedford, maybe Nantucket for 3 weeks, and you still can't get used to it. It's a symphony of decay, a complex chord of rotting fish, raw sewage, coal smoke, and the low-tide stench of the mudflats. But underneath it all, woven through it like a golden, sickly thread, is the smell of rendered whale oil. It clings to every building, every cobblestone, every person. It's the smell of money, they say, but to you, it just smells like a rancid promise. Your stomach, already a hollow cavern of want, clenches at the scent. You haven't had a decent meal in a week, and the stale bread and watery ale you can afford do little to quiet its groaning protests. For the next 3, maybe 4 years, this splintered, floating world will be your home, your prison, and your only hope of making a fortune. You're here to hunt the largest creatures on Earth, in a time before sonar, before radar, before anyone really understood what truly lived in the crushing dark of the deep. And let's be honest, statistically speaking, you probably won't survive this. But the why of it all is where our story lies. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I love reading about where you're all listening from, so feel free to post your city and the local time in the comments below. It's a great way to feel connected, even as we drift off. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The smell is the first thing that truly assaults you. You trudge along the waterfront, your boots, thin-soled and cracked, slipping on the slick, grimy stones. This is why you find yourself standing here, staring at a weather-beaten sign that reads, "Able seamen and green hands, wanted for the Pacific." The office it hangs over is a grimy, cramped little room, barely bigger than a closet, wedged between a raucous tavern and a shop selling maritime charts. He doesn't look up, just continues scratching at a ledger with a noisy quill pen. The room smells of stale tobacco and cheap rum. After a moment that stretches into an uncomfortable eternity, he finally lifts his eyes. They're small and shrewd, and they take in your worn clothes, your hungry frame, and the desperation you're trying so hard to hide, all in a single practiced glance. He's a shipping agent, or more likely a crimp, a man who gets paid by the head for every soul he signs onto a ship as roster. His methods don't have to be particularly ethical. You can hear the roar of the tavern through the thin wall, a reminder of the fleeting warmth and camaraderie that money can buy. He gestures vaguely at a poster on the wall, a romanticized drawing of a grand ship sailing on a calm, sunlit sea. It looks nothing like the greasy, scarred vessels you've seen tied up at the wharf. Good ship, tight crew. Captain Swain's a fair man. 2 years, maybe 3. See the world. Come back with your pockets full of silver, money you don't have. Taking a breath that tastes of salt and despair, you push the door open. Inside, a man with a face like a dried apple sits behind a cluttered desk. "Here for the wanderer?" he asks, his voice a gravelly rasp. The words are a well-rehearsed lure, a siren song for the desperate. You know, on some level, that it's all a lie. It's a dense block of tiny, barely legible text. You pretend to read it, your eyes scanning the clauses about shares, discipline, and duties, but the words blur together. You're not signing a contract. You're signing away your life for the next few years. The agent points a grubby finger to the bottom line. "Sign here." He offers you a lay, a fractional share of the voyage's eventual profits, which sounds generous until you realize every needle, every biscuit, every pair of boots you're issued will be deducted from it at an inflated price. This is a well-known historical fact of the whaling industry. Many a sailor, or whaler, completed a 3-year voyage only to find he was in debt to the ship's owners. It was a brutal but effective system. You've heard the stories from men with missing fingers or a haunted look in their eyes. It represents an escape from the filth, the hunger, the gnawing hopelessness of this port. It's a chance. A terrible, dangerous, probably fatal chance, but a chance nonetheless. With a scratch of the nib, you sign your name. The apple-faced man grins, a crack in his leathery face. He slides a single heavy coin across the desk your advance. Enough for one last hot meal and a night in a real bed before you belong to the ship. As you step back out into the cacophony of the street, the coin heavy in your hand, you take one last look around. The squalor is still there, the noise, the oppressive smell. But now, it's the smell of a world you're about to leave behind. You feel a strange, sharp pang of not joy, but relief. You have a purpose now. You are aware. You just have to survive it. But what choice do you have? Another month here, and you'll either starve or be thrown in jail for vagrancy. The sea, for all its terrors, is at least a path forward. Historians still argue whether the great age of sail was powered by a spirit of adventure or by the sheer, grinding poverty that left young men with no other option. Standing in this room, you feel pretty confident you know the answer. He pushes a contract across the desk. You dip the offered pen into the inkwell. The ship, the Wanderer, is waiting. That single silver dollar feels impossibly heavy, a weight of finality in your palm. You spend it with deliberate slowness. A thick slab of beef pie from a street vendor, so hot it burns your tongue, the flaky crust dissolving into glorious savory fat. The romantic painting in the agent's office depicted a majestic vessel cutting through turquoise waves. The reality is a blunt, utilitarian beast of a ship, her hull streaked with rust and grime, her timbers darkened and scarred from previous voyages. She smells ripe, a combination of bilge water, old wood, and that same pervasive, greasy scent of whale oil. Only now it's concentrated, inescapable. The decks are a controlled chaos of shouting men, coils of thick rope, and stacks of barrels. You clamber aboard, your small cloth sack holding all your worldly possessions slung over your shoulder, and a hard-faced man with a notepad grunts at your name before pointing you forward, toward the forecastle. It's the best thing you've ever tasted. You follow it with a pint of dark, heavy ale in a tavern corner, away from the boisterous crowds. It's a cramped, wedge-shaped space in the bow of the ship, filled with tiered bunks and smelling of unwashed bodies, damp wool, and stale air. The ceiling is so low you can't stand up straight, and the only light filters in through a couple of tiny, grimy portholes. You find an empty bunk and narrow wooden shelf, really, and shove your sack onto it. This is it. This is your kingdom. It is so cozy you could probably get to know your bunkmate's life story just by inhaling. You are packed in with 24 other men, a mix of seasoned sailors with weathered faces and other green hands. Like you, their expressions a mixture of bravado and stark terror. You listen to their laughter and their sea shanties, but you feel separate from them now, as if behind a wall of glass. You are no longer one of them. You belong to the wanderer. Finally, with the last of your pennies, you secure a lumpy straw mattress in the attic of a lodging house, where you fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, the first in weeks. The next morning, you present yourself at the wharf. The wanderer, when you finally lay eyes on her, is a shock. The forecastle, or fo'c'sle, as the sailors call it, is to be your home. There's no time for introductions. The call comes to weigh anchor, and the brutal rhythm of your new life begins without ceremony. The crew is divided into 2 watches, port and starboard. You're on the starboard watch. That means 4 hours on deck, working, and 4 hours below, trying to sleep, eat, and mend your clothes in a space of time that feels like 20 minutes. Then you're back on deck for another 4 hours. The cycle is relentless, day and night, good weather and bad. You are shoved into a line of men at the capstan, a massive, winch-like device used to haul the anchor. You push on the heavy wooden bars, walking in an endless, shuffling circle, your muscles screaming in protest. The anchor chain comes up link by agonizing link, clanking and groaning as it emerges from the muddy harbor bottom. Then it's up into the rigging, a terrifying spiderweb of ropes and masts that sway sickeningly with the motion of the ship. Your hands, soft from weeks of idleness, are quickly rubbed raw on the course, tarred lines as you haul on ropes to set the huge, stiff sails. A seasoned sailor screams at you for fumbling a knot, his words a stream of curses you don't even understand. There is no training manual, no gentle instruction. You learn by doing, and you learn fast, because a mistake could cost a man his finger or his life. Once the ship is clear of the harbor, and the land begins to recede into a thin gray line on the horizon, the true routine sets in. And the food, oh, the food. The first time the cook, a one-eyed man named Salty, slops a ladle of stew into your tin plate, your stomach turns. The captain, a distant, godlike figure you only see shouting orders from the quarterdeck, leaves the day-to-day running of the ship to his mates. Your watch is commanded by the second mate, a wiry, perpetually angry man named Mr. Starbuck. On your third day at sea, you see a young sailor, another green hand, coil a rope the wrong way. Mr. Starbuck doesn't shout. He simply walks over, grabs the boy by the collar, and smacks him hard across the face, sending him stumbling. "Do it again," he says, his voice quiet and menacing, "and I'll have the skin off your back." There's a right way and a lazy way. On this ship, we only have the right way. You quickly learn to keep your eyes down, your mouth shut, and your hands busy. Naval historians debate whether the extreme discipline common on whaling ships was a necessary tool for maintaining order among a rough crew on a years-long voyage, or simply a manifestation of the unchecked absolute power that captains and their officers held thousands of miles from any form of legal oversight. You suspect it's a bit of both. The fear is palpable. It keeps you alert, keeps you working, keeps you from making a fatal error in the rigging high above the churning waves. This ship is a machine, and you are just one small, easily replaceable cog. It's salt horse, beef that has been salted for preservation into a substance with the texture of wood and the flavor of a salt lick. Alongside it is hardtack, also called ship's biscuit. It's a simple flour and water cracker, baked until it's as hard as a rock. The historical way to eat it is to break it into pieces and soak it in your coffee or stew. But you quickly learn the other trick. You tap it firmly on the table before you take a bite. This is to knock out the weevils, the small black insects that infest the barrels. The old sailors joke that you have to decide if you're more hungry for the biscuit or for the extra protein. You don't find it very funny. Discipline is absolute and swift. The land vanishes. It doesn't just recede. One morning you come on deck for your watch, and it's simply gone. In its place, in every direction, is a single, unbroken line where the gray-blue water meets the gray-blue sky. The rhythm of your life 4 hours on, 4 hours off becomes a metronome ticking away your existence. Haul this rope, scrub that deck, tar this line, mend that sail. The tasks are endless, repetitive, and physically demanding. Your hands, once raw and blistered, have hardened into calloused claws. Your muscles, once screaming in protest, have settled into a state of perpetual weary ache. You eat the same food, see the same 20-odd faces, hear the same limited stock of stories and jokes, and stare at the same infinite, empty horizon. Days bleed into weeks. You lose track of whether it's a Tuesday or a Friday. It doesn't matter. There are only watch days and off-watch days. The world shrinks to the 100-foot length of the wanderer. There's the constant creaking of the timbers, the groan of the masts, the snap of the sails, the rush of water along the hull, and the low whistle of the wind in the rigging. It's a deeper silence, a silence of the soul. There is no new information, no new sights, no new sounds, no new people. Your mind, starved of stimulus, begins to turn inward. You find yourself having long, detailed conversations in your head. You replay memories from your life on land with such vividness that stepping back onto the deck feels like waking from a dream. You think about the beef pie you ate before you left, trying to recall every detail of its taste and texture, a pointless but desperate mental exercise. Everything beyond the railing is a vast, featureless emptiness. At first, it's a novelty, a stark and beautiful panorama. You watch flying fish skip across the waves and marvel at the impossible number of stars that blaze in the night sky, far from the obscuring smoke of the city. You feel the immense power of the ocean under your feet, the ship rising and falling on the ceaseless swell, a rhythm that soon becomes as natural as your own breathing. But the novelty wears off, eroded by the sheer grinding monotony. This is when the silence begins to work on you. Not the literal silence. The ship is never truly quiet. You try to fight it. You focus on your work with a fierce intensity, making sure every knot is perfect, every sail is trimmed just so. You try to engage the other sailors in conversation, but their responses are often just grunts. They are lost in their own internal voids. The greatest danger is the ocean itself, its power to erode not just the ship's hull, but the very minds of the men who sail upon it. It's a quiet, insidious siege. And as you stand your lonely watch, under the cold, unblinking eyes of the stars, you feel your own defenses starting to crumble. You start to worry that, like Pippin, a part of you might just let go. A quirky but true tidbit from the era is that some sailors would bring caged birds, like canaries, on long voyages. The birds' constant chirping and singing was considered a vital antidote to the oppressive silence of the sea, a small bastion of lively noise against the vast quiet. Looking around the silent deck of the Wanderer, you would give anything for the sound of a canary right now. One night, during the mid-watch, from midnight to 4 a.m., the emptiness feels particularly acute. The ship is gliding smoothly over a calm, moonlit sea. The only sounds are the soft creak of the hull and the whisper of the water. You're at the helm, holding the great wheel steady, your eyes on the compass glowing faintly in the binnacle. The rest of the watch is scattered around the deck, silent shadows keeping their posts. The sheer, crushing loneliness of the moment is overwhelming. You are a tiny, insignificant speck in the middle of a vast, indifferent universe. You feel a sudden, terrifying urge to just spin the wheel, to send the ship careening off course, to do something, anything, to break the spell. Your knuckles are white on the spokes. You bite your lip, tasting blood, and the sharp, metallic tang brings you back to yourself. You hold the course steady. You begin to understand that the greatest danger on this voyage isn't a storm, or a reef, or even the whales you're supposed to be hunting. The days continue to dissolve one into the next, a featureless gray river of time. Your world is work, sleep, and the gnawing emptiness in between. You've become adept at your duties, your body moving with an economy of motion that only comes from endless repetition. You can climb the rigging in the dark, feel the subtle shifts in the wind on your cheek, and tie a bowline with your eyes closed. You are becoming a sailor. But inside, the silence is still grinding away at you, polishing the sharp edges of your sanity until they are terrifyingly smooth. You've taken to talking to yourself, muttering under your breath as you scrub the decks, just to hear a voice that isn't in your head. You catch other men doing the same. It's during one of these long, empty afternoons that you first hear it. You're on deck, mending a tier in a spare sail with a needle and palm, your stitches slow and methodical. You know those tunes well rollicking, sometimes crude songs about leaving girls in port or hauling on a bowline. This is something else entirely. It's a low, resonant sound, almost a vibration more than a melody. It has no clear rhythm, no words. It rises and falls in long, slow phrases, weaving in and out of the natural sounds of the ship. One man's low drone will be picked up by another, who adds a slightly higher, mournful note, creating a strange, shifting harmony. It sounds ancient, alien. It's deeply unsettling, yet at the same time, strangely calming. The sun is warm on your back, and the ship rolls gently on a lazy swell. Most of the off-watch men are below, trying to sleep in the stuffy heat of the folk's lee. But a small group of the older sailors, the old salts who have spent more of their lives at sea than on land, are gathered near the bow. There's old Ishmael, a man whose face is a road map of wrinkles and sun-scalds. There's a quiet Polynesian harpooner named Queequeg, his face covered in intricate tattoos, and a few others whose names you barely know. They aren't talking. They aren't working. They are just humming. It's not a sea shanty. Shanties are work songs, full of bombast and rhythm, designed to coordinate the pulling of a rope or the pushing of a capstan. You try to get closer, feigning a need to check a line near the bowsprit. As you approach, the humming stops. The men look up at you, their faces impassive, and the spell is broken. It happens in the quiet moments, during the dog watches in the late afternoon, or on calm nights when the moon is full. It's always the same group of veteran sailors, and they are always discreet. The sound seems to come from deep within their chests. It's a melancholy, non-human sound, like the wind moaning over an empty bottle, or the distant cry of some great, lonely beast. It gets under your skin. It fills the oppressive silence not with noise, but with something more profound. It feels like they are in conversation with the sea itself. They disperse, picking up small tasks, or just staring out at the water, as if they were never doing anything at all. It's coming from on deck, directly above the folk's lee. You slip out of your bunk. The air below deck is thick and suffocating, but the sound filtering through the deck planks is clear and hypnotic. You creep up the ladder and peer out onto the deck. The moon is a perfect silver disk, casting long, sharp shadows across the planks. The same group of old sailors is there, leaning against the rail, their faces upturned to the sky, and they are humming their strange, haunting tune. You feel like an intruder, like you've walked in on a private, sacred ritual. You ask one of the younger sailors, a fellow green hand named Tom, if he heard the strange singing. He just shrugs. The old men are just bored, he says dismissively. Getting soft in the head from the sun. But you know it's not that. There was an intent to it, a purpose you can't yet fathom. You start to notice it more often. It never happens when the mates are on deck, and never when there's hard work to be done. One night, you're awakened from a shallow sleep, not by the call for the watch change, but by the sound. This time, it's more complex. It's as if they've been practicing. The harmonies are richer, the phrases longer and more intricate. It's not just humming anymore. Some of them are using their throats to create clicking, groaning sounds that are disturbingly animal-like. It's a secret chorus performing for an audience of one, the vast, empty ocean. Queequeg, the tattooed harpooner, seems to be leading it. His voice is the lowest, a deep, resonant vibration that you can feel in the soles of your bare feet on the deck. He doesn't conduct with his hands, but with his whole body, swaying slightly with the rise and fall of the melody. Historians have documented the sea shanty in exhaustive detail, but there are only scattered anecdotal references to this other kind of singing. It's a fringe piece of nautical lore, often dismissed as fanciful storytelling. Some scholars suggest it was a localized tradition, specific to certain ships or whaling communities, a kind of folk magic that was never written down. Was it a form of prayer? A way to pass the time? Or something else entirely? Standing there in the shadows, listening to this secret, otherworldly music, you feel a shiver run down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold night air. You are witnessing a mystery, a hidden tradition that exists in the spaces between the logbook entries and the official histories. The songs weren't for entertainment, and they weren't for coordinating work. They were for something else. And the fact that they were kept so secret from the officers and the uninitiated, like you, only deepened the mystery. The old men weren't just killing time. They were performing a rite. Weeks pass, and the strange nocturnal singing of the old salts becomes a familiar, if still mysterious, part of your reality. You no longer try to approach them. You've learned that the moment they sense an outsider, the music ceases, vanishing. Like mist, so you listen from a distance, from your bunk below, or from the shadows of the rigging when you're on watch. The melodies are seeping into your mind. You find yourself humming them quietly as you work, the long, mournful phrases, a counterpoint to the rhythmic creak of the ship. The sound fills a space inside you that the silence had hollowed out. It's a comfort, a strange, borrowed solace. One evening during the second dog watch, that strange, liminal time between 6 and 8 p.m., you are sitting alone on a coil of rope near the stern, trying to patch a hole in your trousers. The sun has just set, leaving the sky a bruised purple and orange. Most of the crew are at their evening meal. You're not hungry. A salt horse seems particularly inedible tonight. You're humming one of the tunes, a low, descending phrase that mimics the sigh of a wave without even realizing you're doing it. That's not quite right, boy. The voice, a gravelly rasp, startles you so badly you nearly drop your needle. You look up to see Ishmael, the old sailor with the face like a weathered map, standing over you. He's holding a wooden cup of coffee, the steam rising in the cool air. His eyes, usually distant and cloudy, are sharp and focused on you. You flush, embarrassed to have been caught mimicking their private ritual. Sorry, you stammer, fumbling. With your needle. I didn't mean nothing by it. Ishmael doesn't scold you. Instead, he sits down on the deck beside you, his old bones creaking in protest. He takes a slow sip of his coffee. It's not for your ears, he says. Not unkindly. Nor for mine, really. It's for them. He nods his head towards the vast, darkening ocean. You've got the shape of it, he continues, but not the heart. You're singing from your throat. It has to come from here. He thumps his chest with a gnarled fist. It has to be heavy. Like an anchor. This is it. An invitation. Your heart hammers against your ribs. For the first time, someone is acknowledging the existence of the secret chorus. He closes his eyes and lets out a low, resonant hum, the one you've heard so many times. It's the sound of the deep ocean itself. Try it, he says, his eyes still closed. You hesitate, then take a breath. You try to push the sound from your chest, not your throat. What comes out is a feeble, airy drone. It sounds ridiculous. You stop, your face hot with shame. Ishmael opens one eye and gives you a wry, toothless grin. Takes practice. You're trying to make a pretty sound. It's not about being pretty. It's about being true. Think of the loneliest thing you know. The feeling you get in the middle of the night watch when you think you're the only man alive in the whole world. Put that in the sound. You close your eyes. You think of that night at the helm, the crushing weight of the silent, star-filled sky, a feeling of utter insignificance. You think of the hunger in the port city, the desperation, the cold. You take another breath, and this time, when you... The sound that emerges is different. It's lower, rougher, and it has a tremor of genuine melancholy in it. It's a sad, ugly sound, but it feels real. Ishmael nods slowly. Better, that's a start. He explains that these aren't songs in the way you understand them. There are no verses, no choruses. They are more like calls or moods. Each man finds his own note, a sound that feels right in his own chest, and he adds it to the whole. The goal isn't to create a perfect harmony, but a complex, shifting texture of sound. He calls them whale songs, and he says it with such simple conviction that you don't even think to question it. He confirms what you suspected. The songs are not for the men. They are a message sent out into the deep. This practice of sailors singing to marine life is a fascinating fringe tidbit of maritime history. While not widely documented in official naval logs, personal journals and oral traditions from various seafaring cultures contain references to it. Some Pacific Islander navigators, for instance, were known to use chants and songs to call dolphins, who they believed would help guide them to land. This wasn't just superstition. It was a practical, if esoteric, navigational tool, blending spiritual belief with keen observation of the natural world. Ishmael teaches you the first rule. You never sing when you can see the color of a mate's eyes. It's a secret for the common sailor, a piece of arcane knowledge that separates the men who do the work from the officers who give the orders. He teaches you how to listen to the sounds of the ship and the sea, and to find a note that complements them rather than fighting them. You're not trying to be louder than the wind, he explains. You're trying to become part of the wind's song. Over the next few weeks, you are slowly, cautiously accepted into the circle. You start by just adding your one low, miserable-sounding note to the chorus during the night watches. No one acknowledges you, but no one tells you to stop. You learn to listen to the others, to feel how the collective sound swells and fades. You learn that Queequeg, with his deep, vibrating hum, is the foundation. Old Ishmael provides the mournful, melodic phrases. Another man, a lanky sailor from the Azores, adds a series of strange, high-pitched clicks and whistles. And you provide a low, steady drone. Your small part in a strange and sacred orchestra. You still don't fully understand why you're doing it, but you know it's important. It's a ritual that binds you to these men and to the sea itself in a way that hauling ropes and scrubbing decks never could. You are now a part of the secret choir, a singer of the strange whale songs. The act of joining the chorus has changed you. The gnawing loneliness that once threatened to consume you has been replaced by a quiet sense of belonging. You are no longer just an isolated man on a floating prison. You are a keeper of a tradition, a guardian of a mystery. You still don't know the full purpose of the songs, but you've accepted their importance on faith. The ritual itself has become the meaning. But as the wanderer pushes further south, into the true hunting grounds of the Pacific, Ishmael and the other old salts begin to peel back the layers of the folklore that underpins the music. One night, as you stand your watch, leaning against the rail with Ishmael, your voices mingling in a low, resonant hum that blends with the sigh of the waves, he begins to talk. He doesn't lecture. He just tells stories, his voice a low murmur in the dark. He tells you that the sea has a memory, and that the great whales are its mind. They are not just beasts to be hunted for their oil. They are ancient spirits, kings of the deep, each with its own personality, its own history. He speaks of them not as animals, but as individuals, He talks of Old Tom, a legendary great whale with a uniquely scarred fluke, known to generations of whalers for his cunning and ferocity. He speaks of mother whales who would fight to the death to protect their calves, displaying a grief so human it was terrifying to witness. According to Ishmael, a whale never forgets. He tells you that when a whale is killed, its spirit doesn't simply vanish. It lingers. It can attach itself to the ship that killed it, a ghostly passenger seeking vengeance. An angry whale spirit, he explains, can bring all kinds of misfortune. It can spoil the ship's food, fray the lines, or most terrifyingly, it can call up storms out of a clear sky or lead the ship into the path of a typhoon. Every whale we take, Ishmael whispers, his voice barely audible above the wind, leaves a mark. Not on the hull, but on the soul of the ship. Too many marks, and the ship will sink under the weight of them. This is the heart of this superstition. The songs are not to attract whales for the hunt, as a green hand might assume. They are not a lure. They are an apology, a plea for forgiveness. They are sung to appease the spirits of the whales you have yet to kill, and to soothe the ghosts of the ones already taken. It's a form of preventative magic, a spiritual balm applied to the ship's soul to ward off the wrath of the leviathans. The strange, non-human sounds you've learned to make, the clicks, the groans, the deep, vibrating hums, are an attempt to speak to the whales in their own language, to show respect, to say, "We know who you are. We are sorry for what we must do." The belief in powerful, sentient sea creatures is a common thread in maritime folklore across the globe. From the Kraken of Norse legend to the Yumabuzu of Japan, a massive, dark spirit that rises from the sea to capsize ship sailors have long populated the empty oceans with supernatural beings. These stories were more than just scary tales. They were a way of giving shape and reason to the random, terrifying events of life at sea. A sudden squall wasn't just a meteorological event. It was the anger of a sea god. A ship lost without. A trace wasn't just a tragedy. It was a beast from the deep, claiming its due. You learn that different sounds are for different purposes. The low, steady drone you provide is a sound of peace, meant to show that the ship comes with a heavy heart, not with malice. Ishmael's long, melodic phrases are laments for the whale's coming deaths. Quikig's deep, powerful vibrations are a sign of respect, an acknowledgement of the whale's immense power and age. The clicks and whistles are attempts to mimic the sounds of whale pups, a plea to the protective instincts of the great mothers. Historians still argue whether these complex beliefs were genuine, deeply held spiritual convictions, or merely elaborate coping mechanisms developed by men engaged in a brutal and traumatic profession. Listening to Ishmael in the dark, his voice, filled with a solemn gravity, you have no doubt that for him, and for the other old salts, this is as real as the deck beneath your feet. This new understanding changes the way you sing. Your low drone is no longer just a sound you make to fit in. It's a prayer. You pour your own anxieties, your own sorrow for the grim work that lies ahead, into that single sustained note. You start to listen to the ocean in a new way, straining to hear an answer in the sigh of the waves or the cry of a distant seabird. The world is no longer just water and sky. It's a living, breathing entity, populated by powerful, ancient souls to whom you must now answer. This new knowledge also brings a new kind of fear. Before, you were afraid of the physical dangers of whaling the storms, the capsized boats, the thrashing fluke of a dying animal. Now, you are afraid of the spiritual consequences. You find yourself looking at the other men, the ones who aren't part of the choir, the loud, boisterous sailors who laugh and joke about the slaughter to come, and you see them as reckless fools. They don't know the danger they are in. They don't understand that the real battle isn't fought with harpoons and lances, but with respect and apology, sung on the quiet notes of a midnight watch. You are part of a small, secret priesthood, performing a vital ritual to keep the vast, sleeping wrath of the ocean at bay. Your understanding of the whale songs has deepened from a curiosity to a solemn duty. But the practical, physical mechanism of it all remains a mystery. How could a sound made by a man's chest on the deck of a ship possibly travel through the water to reach a creature swimming in the depths? It seems impossible, like trying to whisper to someone a mile away. You carry this question with you for days, turning it over in your mind as you go about your duties. The folklore provides the why, but your practical mind craves the how. The answer, when it comes, arrives not from the mystical lore of Ishmael, but from the pragmatic world of wood and iron. The ship's carpenter is a man named Chips. He's a quiet, methodical Scotsman with hands as tough and gnarled as oak burls. He rarely socializes with the rest of the crew, preferring the company of his tools and the familiar smells of sawdust and pine tar in his small workshop near the stern. He is not part of the singing circle. He is a man of physics and solid objects, not of spirits and superstitions. One afternoon, you are assigned to help him. The task is to replace a section of the bulwark that was damaged in a minor squall. It's hard, precise work, measuring, sawing, and fitting the heavy timbers. As you work alongside him, you find the courage to ask your question. You frame it carefully, not wanting to reveal the full scope of the secret ritual. Chips. You begin. I was wondering. A sound made on deck, a man's voice, say. Could it be heard by something under the ship? Chips stops hammering and squints at you, his pale blue eyes sharp and intelligent. He seems to consider the question seriously, not dismissing it as a fool's errand. He runs a hand over a massive wooden hull of the ship. This ship, he says, his Scottish burr thick and pleasant, is not just a pile of wood, lad. Not when she's in the water. She's an instrument. He taps the hull with his hammer. A dull thud echoes through the timber. Solid. But when you put this much wood under this much tension from the rigging and float it in a medium like water, it changes things. He leads you over to the mainmast, a colossal pillar of wood that runs from the deck deep down into the keel. He places your hand on it. Feel that? He asks. You can feel a faint, almost imperceptible vibration, a low hum that is the sum of the wind in the sails, the water rushing past the hull, and the movement of 20 men on her decks. The ship is alive with sound. It's a drum, a fiddle, a great bloody lute. Every footstep, every shout, every creak of the timbers. It all travels through her bones. He then explains his theory, a piece of folk engineering that is as elegant as it is simple. The sounds made on the deck, especially low, resonant humming, don't just travel through the air. They vibrate down through the deck planks, into the ship's frame, and most importantly, down the masts and support pillars that are seated directly into the keel. The keel, the spine of the ship, is in constant, direct contact with the water. The whole hull, Chips explains, his eyes gleaming, with intellectual excitement, vibrates. It resonates. The ship becomes a giant soundboard, pushing our noise out into the water. Not like a shout, which stops at the surface, but like a drumbeat, pushing the vibration right through. This concept, though explained here in layman's terms, touches upon the very real science of acoustics and sound transmission. Sound travels over 4 times faster in water than in air, and low-frequency sounds, like the deep hums of the whale songs, travel much farther than high-frequency ones. A wooden ship's hull, acting as a transducer, could indeed transmit vibrations into the surrounding water with some efficiency. This is a historical tidbit that straddles the line between folklore and early applied physics. Sailors wouldn't have known the precise scientific principles, but through observation, They could have certainly grasped the effect. Chips picks up a long, thin shaving of wood from the deck. He holds one end and taps the other. See how it shivers? He says, the whole ship does that. It sings its own song all the time. Your voice, if it's the right kind of voice, doesn't add a new song. It just tunes the one that's already there. He tells you he's noticed the old salts, and they're humming. He doesn't believe in the whale spirits, not for a minute. But he concedes with a rare smile. I believe in vibrations. And I believe a big, curious beastie might just swim up to see who's playing such a strange tune on such a great big fiddle. His explanation is a revelation. It bridges the gap between the spiritual world of Ishmael and the physical world you inhabit. The whale songs are not just magic. They are applied science, a folk acoustic engineering project of stunning ingenuity. The men might believe they are placating ghosts, but what they are actually doing is using the entire ship as a musical instrument to project their message into the deep. This new knowledge changes your singing once again. When you join the choir, that night, you are more conscious than ever of the solid deck beneath your feet. You press your heels into the planks, trying to feel the connection to the keel, to the water below. You imagine your low, steady drone not as a prayer floating on the air, but as a physical vibration traveling down through the bones of the ship, resonating through the hull, and rippling out into the dark, silent world of the Leviathans. You are no longer just a voice in a choir. You are part of the instrument. You are helping to play the ship. The debate among historians about whether sailors' rituals were pure superstition or held a basis in observable phenomena feels moot. Here, on the deck of the Wanderer, the two are one and the same. The magic is in the machine, and the machine is a vessel for the magic. The days of practice and quiet ritual come to an abrupt end. The Wanderer has reached the rich hunting grounds off the coast of South America, a stretch of the Pacific known to whalers as the onshore ground. The mood on the ship shifts. The lethargy that had settled over the crew during the long transit is replaced by a tense, nervous energy. Men spend their off hours sharpening harpoons and lances until they gleam. The whaleboats, which have been stored upside down on a wooden frame, are lowered, cleaned, and outfitted with coils of fresh rope, water casks, and all the deadly paraphernalia of the hunt. The air is thick with anticipation. You feel the change in the singing circle, too. The nighttime songs are more frequent now and more urgent. There's a new intensity to the humming, a deeper plea. You are no longer just practicing or maintaining the spiritual balance of the ship. You are actively preparing the way, trying to soothe the spirits of the great beasts you are now actively seeking to kill. Your own low drone feels heavier in your chest, freighted with the grim reality of what is to come. The call comes at dawn. You are on deck, swabbing the planks, when the lookout, perched high above on the mainmasthead, lets out the cry that every man has been waiting to hear for months. It's a sound that cuts through the morning air like a knife. Tar she blows. The entire ship explodes into a frenzy of controlled chaos. All semblance of the monotonous routine is shattered. The captain bellows orders from the quarterdeck. The mates scream at the men. Haul aback the main yard. Brace the yards. Swing out the boats. There's no time to think, only to react. Your body moving through the familiar motions, with a speed born of endless drills and raw adrenaline. You race to your assigned boat, the one commanded by the fiery second mate, Mr. Starbuck. As the crew swarms the deck, something extraordinary happens. The singers Ishmael, Queequeg, the Azorian. And now you instinctively find each other near the bow. And you begin to sing. It's not the quiet, mournful tune of the night watches. This is different. It's faster, more rhythmic, a driving, percussive chant. The humming is interwoven with sharp clicks and deep, grunting breaths. It has to be loud enough to be heard over the chaos of the deck, but still maintain its ritualistic character. You feel the vibration resonate through the deck, a frantic, urgent message being sent down into the water. We are here. Forgive us. We are here. Mr. Starbuck, seeing you all gathered, hesitates for a second, a flicker of annoyance on his face. He's a man who values action over what he likely sees as idle superstition. But he says nothing. Perhaps he senses the sincerity of the ritual, or perhaps he simply doesn't have time for it. This is a crucial point of debate for maritime historians, the relationship between the officers and the crew's folk beliefs. Did pragmatic captains and mates tolerate these rituals because they saw them as harmless morale boosters, or did a part of them, steeped in the same unpredictable ocean, secretly believe it couldn't hurt to have a little magic on their side? Mr. Starbuck's silent acquiescence suggests the latter. He doesn't join in, but he doesn't stop it. In the boat, move it, he snarls, and you break from the circle, the chant dying on your lips as you scramble over the side and down the ropes into the whaleboat, which is now bobbing precariously on the waves. You take your place at the oar, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. The boat is a fragile, narrow craft, barely 30 feet long, and you are packed in with 5 other men. Mr. Starbuck is at the tiller, and Queequeg, the great harpooner, stands silent and ready in the bow, his harpoon resting lightly in his hands. As the other boats are lowered, the singing on the ship continues. The handful of sailors left on board, the cook, the carpenter, the sailmaker, have been taught a simpler version of the song. They stand at the rail, their voices carrying across the water, a continuous pulsating drone that follows you as you pull away from the mother ship. The song is a thread connecting you back to the wanderer, a lifeline of sound. It's a farewell and a blessing, a plea for your safety and for the forgiveness of the whale you row. The oar is heavy and awkward in your hands, and you struggle to keep time with the other oarsmen. Mr. Starbuck hisses instructions. Pull, you sons of dogs, pull for your pay. Put your backs into it. The whale, a massive sperm whale, has surfaced again about a half-mile away, its spout a misty plume of vapor hanging in the still morning air. That's your target. The historical accuracy of the hunt is chilling. Sperm whales were prized for the vast quantity of spermaceti oil contained in their massive heads, an oil that burned brighter and cleaner than any other, making it the gold standard for lighting and lubrication in the 19th century. That misty spout is the sign of a fortune waiting to be taken. As you get closer, Mr. Starbuck orders you to be silent. Ship your oars easy now. The boat glides forward on its own momentum. The only sound is the water lapping against the hull. The whale is immense, far bigger than you could have ever imagined. It's a floating island of dark, wrinkled flesh, its great eye, when it rolls in its socket to look at you, seeming ancient and intelligent. It is terrifying and majestic. In that moment, all of Ishmael's stories about whale spirits and the soul of the sea feel profoundly, terrifyingly true. Queequeg stands poised in the bow, a bronze statue of deadly intent. The whale doesn't seem to notice you. Perhaps you think with a wild, desperate hope, the songs from the ship have worked. Perhaps it is calm. Perhaps it will forgive you. The whaleboat glides through the water, a silent, deadly projectile. The air is thick with a tension so profound it feels like you could scoop it up with your hands. The colossal creature rests on the surface, oblivious, its wrinkled, gray-black skin glistening in the morning sun. You can smell it now, a strange, musky, oceanic scent, not unpleasant, just wild, primal. Queequeg, balanced in the bow, is the picture of lethal calm. He doesn't move a muscle, just watches, waits. Mr. Starbuck, at the tiller, guides the boat on the final approach. His knuckles are white where he grips the wood. "Stand up, Queequeg," he whispers, his voice a dry rasp. The harpooner rises. To his full height, the first harpoon, the iron, as they call it, held ready. The boat is now mere feet from the whale's flank. You could reach out and touch it. The sheer scale of it is dizzying. This is not an animal. It's a geographical feature. Queequeg's arm draws back, a blur of tattooed muscle, and then he drives the harpoon deep into the whale's side. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. It's as if the great beast hasn't even noticed the sting. Then the ocean explodes. The whale lets out a sound that is not a sound, but a force of nature, a deep, shuddering groan that vibrates through the water and up into the very frame of your boat. It convulses, its immense body lifting out of the sea, and then it crashes back down, sending a wave of green water washing over you, drenching you, blinding you. "Stern all!" shrieks Mr. Starbuck. "Stern all for your lives!" You row backward with all your might, a desperate, clumsy scramble to get away from the thrashing chaos. The whale's massive tail, the flukes, as wide as the boat is long, smashes down onto the water where you were just a second before. The impact like a cannon shot. The harpoon is attached to a long, coiled rope, the whale line. As the wounded animal dives, the line begins to smoke out of its tub in the center of the boat, flying over the gunwale at an impossible speed. A sailor has to douse it with buckets of water to keep it from setting the boat on fire from friction. If your hand or leg were to get caught in a loop of that line, you would be snatched out of the boat and dragged down into the abyss in the blink of an eye. This was a common and historically documented cause of death for whalers, a grisly end, known as being taken by the line. Now begins the Nantucket sleigh ride. The whale, maddened with pain and terror, streaks through the water, dragging your tiny boat behind it like a child's toy. You hold on for dear life as the boat skims and bounces across the waves at a terrifying speed. The mother ship, the Wanderer, recedes into the distance. You are on your own, tethered to a monster. Not after what feels like an eternity, the whale begins to tire. It slows and surfaces. Now the real grim work begins. You row closer, pulling on the line to draw your boat alongside the exhausted, wounded giant. Mr. Starbuck trades places with Queequeg, taking up the killing lance, a long, slender spear with a razor-sharp, spade-like head. This is the part of the hunt that requires cold, brutal precision. The goal is to pierce the whale's lungs, and as you row closer, you begin to hum. You don't even realize you're doing it at first. It's the low, mournful drone Ishmael taught you, the song of apology. The other oarsmen look at you, their faces a mixture of fear and confusion. But Queequeg, back at his oar now, hears you. He picks it up, his own deep voice joining yours. It's a quiet, desperate, two-man chorus in the middle of a blood-soaked sea. It's a song for the dying. You are singing to the very whale you are about to kill. The dissonance is a physical sickness in your gut. The beauty and solemnity of the song you learned under the peaceful moon is now the soundtrack to a slaughter. Mr. Starbuck, his face a mask of grim determination, leans over the gunwale and drives the lance deep into the whale's side behind the great pectoral fin. He churns it, probing for the life of the animal. The whale shudders. A new spout erupts from its blowhole, but this one isn't mist. It's a thick, frothy spray of bright red blood, a phenomenon grimly known as a chimney. A fire. The blood rains down on you, hot and sticky, covering you, the boat, the oars. The smell is thick and coppery. The whale goes into its flurry, its death throes. It thrashes wildly, beating the water into a pink foam with its massive flukes. Your boat is tossed about violently, and you can only hang on and pray. The singing stops. There is only the sound of the dying beast and the frantic shouts of Mr. Starbuck. Then, as suddenly as it began, it is over. The great body rolls onto its side, lifeless. The ocean, for yards in every direction, is stained a sickening crimson. A profound, ringing silence descends, broken only by the lapping of the waves and the gasps of the exhausted men in the boat. You have done it. You have killed the king of the deep. There is no triumph, no elation. Just a hollow, bone-deep weariness and the sight of the blood. So much blood. The long, slow work of towing the immense carcass back to the wanderer begins. As you take up your oar, you look at Queequeg. His face is spattered with the whale's blood, but his expression is one of deep, solemn sorrow. You understand now, more than ever, the purpose of the songs. They are not to make the killing easy. They are to make it possible to live with yourself afterward. It is a way to honor the spirit you have just extinguished, to try and mend the tear you have just ripped in the fabric of the world. The song is the only beauty in the midst of this terrible, bloody harvest. The process of cutting in and trying out the whale is a descent into a specific kind of industrial hell, one that floats on the open ocean. Once the massive carcass is towed back and secured to the side of the wanderer, the ship transforms from a vessel of passage into a floating factory and slaughterhouse. The work is grueling, filthy, and it goes on for days without stop under the relentless sun, and when night falls, under the ghastly, flickering light of oil-fed lamps. The first step is for the mates to lower themselves onto the slippery, unstable corpse of the whale, secured by ropes. Armed with long-handled cutting spades, they begin to carve into the blubber, peeling it off the whale in immense strips, like the rind from a gigantic orange. This is incredibly dangerous work. A slip of the foot could send a man into the shark-infested waters below, or a sudden lurch of the ship could cause a razor-sharp spade to slice through a limb. On deck, you and the rest of the crew work the massive windlass, a powerful winch, to haul the blubber strips called blanket pieces aboard. The strain is immense, the work mind-numbingly repetitive. You haul and heave, your muscles screaming, your hands slick with grease. The deck, once scrubbed and clean, is now a treacherous landscape of gore. It's covered in a thick layer of blood and oil. You slip and slide with every step. The air, once clean and salty, is now thick with the smell of raw meat and soon the even more pungent stench of boiling oil. Everything you touch, everything you own, becomes saturated with this grease. Your clothes are stiff with it. Your skin is coated in it. Your food tastes of it. It's inescapable. Once the blubber is on deck, it's cut into smaller pieces and fed into the try-works, the infernal heart of the operation. The try-works is a brick furnace built into the deck, holding 2 enormous iron pots or tripettes. A fire is lit in the furnace, using scraps of already rendered blubber as fuel, in a grotesque, self-perpetuating cycle, and the pots are filled with blubber to be boiled down. This is trying out, the process of rendering the solid blubber into liquid oil. Your job is to tend this fire, to pitchfork chunks of blubber into the boiling, popping cauldrons, and to stir the rendering mess with a long-handled tool. The heat is apocalyptic. It blasts you in the face, scorching your eyebrows and drying out your throat. The smoke is thick, black, and greasy, choking you, filling your lungs, and coating everything in a layer of fine black soot. At night, the scene is something out of a nightmare. The roaring fires of the try-works cast a lurid, dancing light on the men, their faces and bodies black with soot, their eyes red-rimmed from the smoke. You look like demons tending the cauldrons of hell. The mainstream historical image of whaling often focuses on the heroic chase, but the reality for the common sailor was this: days of stinking, back-breaking, industrial labor. It's during a Lull in this grim work, in the dead of a long night, that you truly understand the other purpose of the songs. The wail has been fully rendered. The last of the oil has been cooled and stowed in barrels below deck. The fires of the try-works have been extinguished, leaving a profound and welcome silence. The deck is still a mess. The ship is still saturated with the smell of a successful hunt, but the frantic labor is over. You are on the lonely watch from midnight to 4 a.m. The ship is quiet, gliding through a calm, starlit sea. The rest of your watchmates are shadows, dozing at their posts. The adrenaline of the chase and the brutal exhaustion of the harvest have faded, and in their place, a deep and profound loneliness settles over you. It's a different kind of loneliness than the one born of monotony. This is the loneliness of the soul. You've been a part of something terrible and immense. You've seen the life extinguish from the eye of a great creature. You've dismembered its body. You've boiled its flesh down to fuel and coin. The experience has isolated you, set you apart even from the men who shared it with you, because each man must process the horror in his own way. You find yourself at the bow, staring out into the infinite blackness, the same spot where you first heard the old salt sing, the memory of the whale's death, the sound of its final bloody exhalation, replays in your mind. The excitement of the lay your tiny share of the profits from those barrels of oil feels like a pittance, a dirty coin in exchange for a piece of your soul. A wave of melancholy, so powerful it almost brings you to your knees, washes over you. And so you begin to hum. It's not a ritual this time. It's not for the whale spirits or for the ship's soul. It's for you. You sing the long, sad, falling notes that Ishmael taught you. You put all of your exhaustion, all of your guilt, all of your profound and soul-crushing loneliness into the sound. It's a ballad for one. After a moment, a second voice joins you from the shadows. It's Ishmael. He doesn't say a word, just adds his own harmony to yours. Then a third voice, the quiet Azorian. The secret choir assembles, not for a ritual, but for mutual comfort. You realize the songs are a vessel. They are strong enough to carry the weight of superstition and folklore, but they are also versatile enough to carry the simple, heavy burden of a man's sorrow. On a ship where showing emotional weakness is a dangerous liability, where a man is expected to be hard and uncomplaining, the songs provide a loophole. They are a sanctioned, safe way to express the profound sadness that is an inescapable part of this life. They are a way to be lonely together. The quirky tidbit that some sea captains' wives kept diaries on whaling voyages reveals this emotional toll. They wrote of the crew's sullen silences and sudden, inexplicable bouts of melancholy after a successful but bloody hunt. The songs were the men's diary, written on the air instead of on paper. You sing until the eastern sky begins to lighten. Your voice is a quiet testament to the shared, unspoken burden of your trade. After the frenzy of the first kill, the ocean seems to empty. Weeks go by with no sightings. The cry of "Tar she blows" becomes a half-forgotten echo. The routine of the long transit returns, but it's different now. It's punctuated by the memory of the hunt and the lingering, greasy smell of the rendered oil that permeates every timber of the ship. The barrels of precious oil below deck are a constant, tangible reminder of what you have done and what you are waiting to do again. The tension of the hunt has been replaced by the familiar, grinding monotony, but it's a darker, more knowing monotony now. The nightly singing continues, a solemn and necessary ritual. Having participated in the full cycle of the hunt, from the spiritual apology to the gory reality, you feel your connection to the music has deepened. Your voice is no longer hesitant. Your low drone is a firm foundation in the choir, a note of sorrow and experience. You and the other singers have become a close-knit group, a silent brotherhood. You share a language that the rest of the crew does not understand. You communicate in glances, in nods, in the shared melancholy of your nightly chorus. One evening, the ship is sailing through a stretch of water known for being particularly rich in life. The sun has set, and a full, luminous moon hangs in the sky, laying a glittering silver path across the surface of the water. The sea is unusually calm, as smooth and dark as polished glass. The singers have gathered at the bow for the evening song. The air is still, and the conditions are perfect for sound to travel. As Chips, the carpenter, explained, the ship is a great lute, and tonight the world is a perfect concert hall. You begin to sing. The mood is somber and reflective. Queequeg lays down his deep, resonant foundation, a vibration you can feel in your teeth. Ishmael adds his long, weeping melody. The Azorian contributes his strange, clicking calls. You find your place, the steady, sorrowful drone. Tonight, the music feels particularly potent, the harmonies tighter, the collective sound richer and more powerful than ever before. You are not just humming. You are pouring your shared experience, the awe, the terror, the guilt into the performance. You are singing of the great whale you killed, a musical eulogy sent out into the vast, silent ocean. You sing for what feels like an hour, lost in the sound, lost in the communion with the other singers and the sea. The rest of the ship is quiet. The men on watch are hushed, and even the creaking of the ship's timbers seems to have softened, as if the vessel itself is listening. And then something changes. A new sound enters the symphony. It's not from the ship. It comes from the water. It is a low, powerful moan, a sound of impossible size and depth. It's not the sound of a wave or the wind. It is a voice. It rises from the deep, travels through the hull of the ship, and vibrates up through the soles of your feet. It is a sound so profound and so alien that for a moment you all stop singing, your mouths falling open in stunned silence. Slowly, a shape begins to materialize in the moonlit water off the port bow. It is a colossal, darker shadow moving within the dark water. It's a whale, a sperm whale of unimaginable size, larger than the one you killed, larger than any of you have ever seen. It's not fleeing, not charging. It's approaching the ship slowly, deliberately. It surfaces with a quiet, sighing hiss of breath, its massive, wrinkled head gleaming in the moonlight. It is so close you can see the pale circle of its eye, which seems to be fixed directly on your small group at the bow. The men are frozen, a mixture of terror and awe rooting them to the deck. This is no ordinary whale sighting. This is an encounter. The whale lies parallel to the ship, its great body a silent, floating continent. And then it sings back. It lets out another long, low moan, followed by a series of deep, percussive clicks. It's not a random noise. It's a call and response. The sounds it makes are uncannily similar to the ones you have been making. The mournful moan mirrors Ishmael's melody. The clicks echo the Azorian's strange calls. It is undeniably, impossibly, a conversation. The line between reality and folklore dissolves completely. Is this the vengeful spirit of the whale you killed? Is it a curious leviathan drawn by the strange vibrations, as Chips theorized? Or is it something more, a being of intelligence and awareness, acknowledging your song, your apology? The academic debate over whether whales possess a true language or simply a set of instinctual calls feels absurdly academic in this moment. What you are hearing is communication. After a moment of frozen shock, Queequeg, the harpooner, does something extraordinary. He steps to the rail, and in his deep, resonant voice, he sings a single, long, questioning note out to the whale. The great beast is silent for a moment. Then it responds, its own voice mimicking the pitch and duration of Queequeg's call almost perfectly. A shiver runs through you that is pure primal awe. You are witnessing a miracle, a moment that defies all logic and experience. The old salt Ishmael has tears streaming down his wrinkled face, glistening in the moonlight. He is not afraid. He is vindicated. Everything he believed, everything he taught you is true. You are not just singing to the ocean. The ocean is singing back. The great whale stays with the ship for nearly an hour, circling slowly, exchanging its deep moans and clicks with the hushed, reverent tones of the singers. It feels less like an animal and more like a monarch visiting a humble delegation. Then, with a final deep sigh that sounds like a farewell, it slips beneath the surface and vanishes into the black water, leaving only the silver path of the moon and a profound, ringing silence. No one speaks for a long time. The experience has shattered you all. You have touched a mystery that you will never be able to fully explain or comprehend. From this moment on, the whale songs will never be the same. They are no longer just an act of faith. They are an act of conversation. You have had your reply. The night the Leviathan answered your call becomes a legend whispered among the crew, a defining moment in the voyage of the wanderer. The men who witnessed it are changed. The men who only heard it from their bunks or as a second-hand story look at you, the singers, differently. You are no longer just the odd, humming group of old salts and their young apprentice. You are now the men who spoke with a whale. There's a new respect in their eyes, tinged with a healthy dose of fear. The line between the initiated and the uninitiated has been drawn as clearly as if it were a chalk circle on the deck. The singing circle, which had been a quiet, almost furtive tradition, now feels like the secret, beating heart of the ship. Your small choir is the spiritual core of the crew. You don't lord this new status over anyone. In fact, you become even more discreet. The power of the experience was in its quiet, personal majesty, and to boast about it would be to cheapen it. But the dynamic has irrevocably shifted. The ship now has two distinct crews, the men who simply work the vessel and the men who tend to its soul. You are a brotherhood bound by a shared and possible secret. This creates a subtle but powerful sense of cohesion among you. You find yourselves eating together, working the same lines, sharing tobacco without being asked. The bond forged by the songs is stronger than any contract signed on shore. You can communicate complex thoughts with just a glance. A shared look between you and Ishmael during a squall can convey both the physical danger of the wind and the spiritual anxiety of a troubled sea. The songs have become your private language, a code that insulates you from the harshness of the outside world and the rest of the crew. This creation of in-groups and out-groups is a classic element of human social dynamics, well documented in isolated communities from military units to monasteries. On a long, monotonous whaling voyage, where social structures were rigid, the formation of a subgroup with its own rituals and secret knowledge would have been a powerful source of identity and psychological resilience. It provides a sense of special purpose in a world where you are otherwise just a cog in a machine. The rest of the crew reacts to your new status in different ways. Some of the younger sailors, the green hands, look at you with wide-eyed awe. They start leaving small offerings for you, a piece of their hardtack, a bit of saved fruit, as if you were priests who could intercede with the gods of the deep on their behalf. You politely decline these, not wanting to encourage a cult-like atmosphere. Others, particularly the more cynical and hard-bitten sailors, treat you with a new, wary distance. They see your singing not as a holy communion, but as some kind of strange, potent magic they don't understand, and therefore don't trust. They give you a wide berth, muttering about sea witches and Jonas. Mr. Starbuck, the pragmatic second mate, seems torn. He saw the great whale. He heard its call. His fiercely logical mind cannot process it. You see him watching you during the night watches, his brow furrowed in a mixture of suspicion and grudging respect. He never mentions the incident, but he also stops making any sarcastic remarks about your groaning. He has no category for what he witnessed, so he chooses to file it under things not to be spoken of. His silence is a form of acknowledgement, an admission that there are forces at work on this ship that are beyond his command. The singing itself becomes more refined, more confident. The memory of the whale's voice is now your guide. You try to replicate its tones, its phrasing, its profound depth. Your nightly chorus is no longer just an apology or a lament. It's an attempt to reconnect, to reopen the channel of communication. You are listening as much as you are singing, straining to hear a reply in the groaning of the timbers and the rush of the water. Each song is a question sent out into the void. Are you there? You realize that this secret is what separates the crew of the Wanderer from the crews of other whaling ships. You occasionally pass other vessels at sea, exchanging shouted greetings and news across the water. You look at the men on their decks, and they seem like strangers from another world. You wonder if they have their own secrets, their own songs. Or are they just sailing on a dead piece of wood, deaf to the music of the deep? You feel a strange mixture of pity and superiority. They are hunting for oil. You are communing with leviathans. This sense of being part of a special, elite group provides a powerful psychological armor against the brutalities of your life. When another whale is hunted and killed, the work is still bloody, the smell still foul, the labor still backbreaking. But for you, the process is now framed by a larger spiritual context. You sing the song of apology with even greater fervor, because you are no longer just hoping a spirit can hear you. You are addressing a being you know is intelligent, a member of a race of creatures with whom you have spoken. The dissonance between the beautiful songs and the gruesome harvest is sharper than ever, but the songs now feel less like a coping mechanism and more like a sacred, necessary duty. You are the ship's conscience, the ambassadors who must apologize for the violence of your trade. This invisible thread, this shared secret of the singing, is what holds you together. A quiet, humming engine of faith inside the loud, greasy machine of the whale hunt. The ship sails south, chasing the migratory paths of the whales into colder, grayer waters. The days grow shorter, the nights longer and more frigid. The successful hunts have filled a good portion of the ship's hold with barrels of oil, but the captain is a greedy man, and the Wanderer pushes ever onward. The mood of the sea changes. The lazy turquoise swells of the tropics are replaced by choppy, slate-gray waves that slap angrily against the hull. The wind has a new biting edge to it. Then the wind dies. It doesn't just weaken, it vanishes completely. One morning you wake up to a world of eerie stillness. The sails, which had been straining against the wind, now hang limp and useless. From the yards, the ship, with no power to move her, loses all headway and comes to a dead stop. The ocean, which had been so full of motion, becomes a vast, undulating sheet of polished steel, rising and falling in a slow, glassy, nauseating swell. You are in the doldrums. At first, the break from the constant work of trimming sails is a welcome novelty. But the novelty sours within a day. The sun, which had been a welcome friend in the colder latitudes, now becomes a malevolent enemy. With no wind to cool the air, the heat becomes oppressive, trapped between the glassy sea and a hazy, cloudless sky. The deck planks become too hot to stand on with bare feet. The tar in the seams of the deck softens and bubbles. The entire ship becomes a stagnant, floating oven. Days turn into a week. The ship drifts aimlessly, sometimes turning in a slow, lazy circle over the course of a day. The world is utterly silent, save for the ceaseless, maddening creak of the timbers as the ship rocks on the swell. Food begins to spoil in the heat. The water in the casks takes on a foul, brackish taste. Tempers, already frayed by the long voyage, begin to snap. Fights break out over nothing. The men become listless, their movements slow, their faces slack with a mixture of boredom and despair. The ship is no longer a vessel. It's a prison, and the sentence is indefinite. This is the dreaded reality of the doldrums, a region near the equator where the prevailing trade winds of the northern and southern hemispheres meet, often resulting in long periods of calm, windless weather. For a sailing ship, it was a death sentence for the crew's morale and a serious threat to their supplies. Historical accounts are filled with stories of ships being trapped for weeks, their crews driven to madness by the heat, the thirst, and the sheer, mind-numbing inaction. The nightly singing becomes the only thing that punctuates the endless, agonizing days. But the character of the songs changes. They are no longer calm, meditative apologies or hopeful questions sent into the deep. They are now desperate prayers. You sing for wind. The melodies are frantic, the rhythms urgent. You are not trying to appease the whale spirits now. You are pleading with the very god of the air. You sing until your throats are raw, your voice is hoarse. You pour all of your frustration, your fear, and your desperate hope for a single gust of wind into the music. The rest of the crew, who had previously either revered or feared the singers, now look to you as their only hope. The cynical sneers are gone, replaced by desperate, pleading eyes. Men who once called you sea witches now beg you to sing louder. They see your strange ritual as the last, best chance for salvation. Your small choir is no longer just the ship's conscience. You are its designated holy men, its last line of defense against the wrath of a silent, indifferent sky. The heat becomes a fever. Men collapse on the deck from sunstroke. Dr. Finch, the ship's surgeon, is overwhelmed. His small stock of medicines useless against the larger sickness of despair. Ishmael, his old body withering in the oppressive heat, seems to shrink before your eyes. His voice, once strong and melodic, becomes a dry, cracked whisper. But still, he sings. Every night the choir gathers, our numbers sometimes bolstered by other terrified sailors who try to add their own clumsy, untrained voices to the plea. The songs become ragged, chaotic, a chorus of desperation. One afternoon, you are all on deck, listless, staring at the brassy sky, when Pippin, the young sailor who once froze in the rigging, begins to laugh. It's a high, unhinged giggle. He stands up and begins to dance a clumsy jig on the scorching deck, his eyes wide and unfocused. He's coming for us, he shrieks, pointing a trembling finger at the empty horizon. The sun god, he's coming to burn us all. The heat has finally broken his mind. Mr. Starbuck has to restrain him and haul him below, a grim reminder of how close you all are to the edge. That night, the singing is the most desperate it has ever been. It feels like a final, futile gesture. You are weak from dehydration, your head pounding from the heat. You close your eyes and sing, not with hope, but with a kind of exhausted defiance. You sing of storms, of full sails, of the feeling of cold spray on your face. You try to conjure the wind with the sheer force of your memory and desire dot as your song fades into the suffocating darkness. A change occurs. It's not a sound, but a feeling, a coolness on your cheek. You open your eyes. A corner of the limp mainsail, high above, has fluttered. Just once, a collective gasp goes through the men on deck. Then it flutters again. A low, cool breeze, the barest whisper of moving air, snakes across the deck. It's the most beautiful thing you have ever felt. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the wind begins to build. The sails begin to stir, then to belly out. The ship, which has been dead in the water for what feels like a lifetime, gives a great, shuddering groan and begins to move. A ragged, delirious cheer erupts from the crew. Men are weeping, laughing, hugging each other. The spell is broken. You are free. No one says it aloud, but every man on the ship believes it with absolute certainty. It was the songs that did it. Your desperate, feverish prayer was answered. You did not just sing for the whales. You sang for the wind, and the wind came. The wind that saved you from the doldrums fills your sails and your spirits. It's a clean, steady trade wind that pushes the wanderer onward with purpose. The ship feels alive again, her timbers humming with motion, her deck once more a place of focused, meaningful work. A memory of the oppressive heat and the terrifying stillness fades like a fever dream, but it leaves its mark. The crew is soberer, quieter. You have all looked into the abyss of a calm sea and been delivered. The bonds between you, forged in shared desperation, are stronger than ever. More hunts follow. The rhythm of the voyage finds itself again. Long periods of watchful sailing, punctuated by the violent, bloody, and profitable frenzy of the chase. Your hold is now almost full. The ship sits lower in the water, heavy with the wealth of the leviathans. You have been at sea for nearly 3 years. Faces that were young and smooth when you left port are now weathered, bearded, and old before their time. You catch your own reflection in a piece of polished metal, and barely recognize the man staring back, his eyes distant, his skin tanned. To leather, a stranger who has seen too much, the songs have become an ingrained part of your existence, as natural and necessary as eating or sleeping. You have sung for apology, for loneliness, for communication, and for salvation. The choir has become a stable, respected institution on the ship. The near-death experience in the doldrums solidified your status. The other sailors no longer question the songs. They depend on them. They believe your voices maintain the delicate balance between the ship and the vast, powerful forces of the natural world. Finally, the day comes. The last barrel of oil is stowed below. The captain, his face a rare picture of satisfaction, consults his charts, confers with his mates, and gives the order. Set the course for home. The words ripple through the ship like a jolt of electricity. Home. The word feels foreign, unreal. The life you lived before the wanderer seems like a story you read about someone else. The port you fled from, with its grime and its desperation, now seems like a paradise. The idea of solid ground, of fresh food, of a world that isn't constantly rocking beneath your feet is almost too much to comprehend. A great, ragged cheer goes up from the men. They clap each other on the back, their faces split with grins. The long, brutal odyssey is finally ending. That evening, as the ship turns her bow northeast for the long voyage home, the singers gather for the last time. This song will be different from all the others. It is not a plea, not an apology, not a cry of desperation. It is a farewell. You gather at the stern, the part of the ship that is now pointed back towards the hunting grounds, back towards the world of the whales. You are leaving their world and returning to the world of men. The song you sing is one you have never performed before. Ishmael, looking older and more tired than ever, but with a deep, peaceful light in his eyes, begins. It's a slow, somber melody, a true lament. It has none of the frantic energy of the doldrums prayer or the awe of the night the Leviathan answered. It is a song of pure, unadulterated melancholy. You join in, your low drone of funereal anger. For Ishmael's weeping tune, Queequeg adds a sound like a deep, long sigh. You are singing a song of goodbye to the spirits you've communed with, to the ghosts of the whales you have killed, and to the great, living whale that answered your call. It is a song of gratitude and of immense sadness. You are leaving this world that has, in its own terrible way, become your home. The music is full of a deep, aching nostalgia for the very experiences that terrified and traumatized you. This complex emotional state is a known phenomenon among people returning from intense, long-term experiences like war or expeditions. It's a kind of reverse culture shock, a grieving for the loss of a life that was often miserable, but also simple, intense, and deeply meaningful. You are mourning the loss of the brotherhood of the choir, the loss of the secret knowledge, the loss of the immediate, life or death stakes that made you feel so terribly and wonderfully alive. As you sing, you notice that the rest of the crew has gathered at a respectful distance. They are silent, their hats in their hands. They don't understand the notes, but they understand the meaning. This is the final ritual. They are witnessing the closing of the book, the severing of the spiritual tie that has protected them for 3 years. Mr. Starbuck stands among them, his arms crossed, his face unreadable in the twilight, but he is there. He is listening. Your song is also a farewell to a part of yourselves. A man who steps ashore will not be the same boy who signed on in desperation. You have been remade by the sea, by the blood, and by the songs. This last, long, beautiful, and heartbreaking melody is a eulogy for the person you used to be. You sing of the emptiness of the open ocean, of the terror of the hunt, of the heat of the try-works, and of the profound, impossible beauty of a great whale singing back to you in the moonlight. You are putting the entire voyage, with all its horror and its wonder, into this final performance. The song fades out as the last light of the sun dips below the horizon, leaving you in darkness. No one moves. The only sound is the steady rush of the water as the wanderer carries you home. The magical, terrifying chapter of your life is over. The silence that follows the song is heavier and more final than any silence you have ever known. The work is done. The spirits have been appeased. All that is left is the long journey back to a world that you are no longer sure you belong to. The journey home is a long, slow unwinding. The rhythms of the ship remain the same, the watches, the meals, the endless maintenance, but the soul has gone out of them. The work is no longer driven by the hunt or by survival, but by the simple, plodding desire to get home. The nightly songs have ceased. The choir has been disbanded by an unspoken mutual agreement. A farewell has been said, and to sing now would feel like speaking in a graveyard. The silence that returns is profound. It's the silence of an empty concert hall after the orchestra has gone home. You miss the music more than you could ever have imagined. It leaves a hollow space in your chest, a phantom limb of sound. After weeks that feel like months, the lookout cries, "Land ho!" It's a thin, dark smudge on the horizon, but it's real. A strange, unfamiliar emotion grips you, not the pure joy you expected, but a turbulent mix of relief, anxiety, and a deep, surprising sadness. You are returning to a world that has continued without you for 3 years. A world that knows nothing of whale spirits, doldrum fevers, or the sound the Leviathan makes in the moonlight as the wanderer navigates the final miles into the harbor. Of New Bedford, the smells reach you first. It's the same symphony of smells you fled from, the low-tide mud, the coal smoke, the rot. But now, cutting through it, is the scent of damp earth, of grass, of baker's bread. These simple terrestrial smells are so foreign and so potent they make you dizzy. The sounds grow from a distant hum into a chaotic roar, the clatter of carts, the shouting of men, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer. It's a harsh, jarring noise compared to the natural music of the ship you've grown accustomed to. The ship docks with a final, shuddering bump against the wharf. Ropes are thrown, the gangplank is lowered, and the voyage is officially over. You line up, one by one, to go ashore and then to the shipping office to be paid out. When it's your turn, you step onto the solid wood of the pier, and the world tilts violently beneath your feet. Your sea legs, so reliable on a heaving deck, are utterly useless on solid ground. The unmoving land feels like it's swaying, a nauseating sensation known as land sickness. You have to stand still for a moment, gripping a post, waiting for the world to stop spinning dot in the same grimy office where you signed your life away. The apple-faced agent, looking not a day older, sits behind his ledger. He consults the book, his finger running down a list of names. He subtracts the cost of your boots, your oilskins, your tobacco, every needle and thread, all at a wildly inflated price. This was the brutal historical reality of the lay system. For every dollar a weigher earned, a significant portion was often clawed back by the ship's owners for expenses, a practice that kept the sailors in a state of perpetual dependency. The pile of silver coins he pushes toward you is substantial enough to make you gasp, but it looks smaller than you'd imagined in your dreams. It feels strangely light, almost meaningless, for 3 years of your life. You step out onto the street, your pockets heavy with silver for the first time you can remember. The world is a bewildering assault on the senses. It's too loud, too fast, too crowded. People jostle past you without a word. Horses and carts clatter by. The sheer density of human life is suffocating. Within minutes, you are approached by a smiling man who offers to buy you a drink to celebrate your return. This is a land shark, a type of con man who haunted 19th century ports. This quirky and dangerous tidbit of social history describes the ecosystem of predators, tavern keepers, pimps, and swindlers, who specialized in separating sailors from their entire voyage's earnings in a matter of days through drink, gambling, and other temptations. You brush him off, clutching your coins tightly. You find a quiet corner and just watch. You see the faces of the people, and they seem pale and soft. Their concerns, which you overhear in snippets of conversation. The price of flour, a dispute with a neighbor, seem impossibly small. Historians still argue whether the psychological impact of a long whaling voyage, an ailment some old sailors vaguely called whale road fever, was a temporary condition of readjustment or a permanent alteration of a man's character and worldview. Standing here, feeling utterly alien in your own country, you suspect it's the latter. The world ashore is full of noise, but it's spiritually silent. There is no deep, resonant hum beneath the chaos. There is no great, sentient life listening from the depths. There are no songs to appease the spirits. The magic is gone. You are alone with your money and your memories. You look back at the wanderer tied to the wharf. She looks smaller now, dirtier, just a vessel of wood and iron. But you know she is more than that. She was a lute, a temple, a crucible. You turn away from the ship and walk into the loud, chaotic, silent city. A man forever haunted by the beautiful, terrible music of the sea dot. And so your journey on the high seas comes to a quiet, uncertain end. The clamor of the port begins to fade now, the sharp edges of the memory softening as you let it all drift away. The weight of the silver in your pocket grows lighter, and the unsettling feeling of solid ground beneath your feet gives way to a gentle, floating sensation, as if you are being rocked in a calm and peaceful harbor. The faces of the crew of Ishmael and Queequeg and the angry Mr. Starbuck dissolve into the soft, welcoming darkness behind your eyes. All the tension of the hunt, the heat of the try-works, and the desperate yearning of the songs are receding now, becoming just a story, a whisper from another time that can no longer touch you. Let the silence that follows be a comfort, a deep and restful quiet that belongs only to you here in the safety of your own bed. The ocean's great, mysterious song has been sung, and now all that is left is the gentle, rhythmic sound of your own breathing, a steady and reassuring tide, pulling you slowly, softly toward the shores of sleep. Just let go. Let it all fade